Hi, how are you?
Good. You are commuting. Are you going to drive safely?
I'm actually home. I just finished laundry, so I'm waiting for my son to come grab it, and I'm going to park my car.
Okay, perfect. Cool.
Yeah.
Glad you're here. Making it happen one way or another, right?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. Love it. If you guys could turn on your cameras, if you're really in a place where you can't have the camera on, I understand, but it's really, really weird to teach to boxes with names. So we're all in the real estate business. This is an eyeball to eyeball, belly to belly business. So the way we play in here is the way we will play out there. So please turn your cameras on. Let's engage. Let's make this interactive. Is it Yahara? Is that how I say that?
Yes, it is Jahira. Good morning.
Jahira.
Yes.
Jahira. It's a beautiful name.
Thank you.
I will try to make sure I pronounce it correctly.
All right.
I got two out of everybody has turned their cameras on. Come on, folks. This is going to get weird. You guys aren't going to do this to me, are you? Are you going to make me make it weird for everybody? All right, Linda. Linda's in the house. The KW background and everything. Well done, Linda. Tim, there we go. What's happening, Tim?
How are we doing today?
Very good, sir. Very good. William is in the house now. All right, here we go. Everyone's shaking off the shyness. That's what we need, little by little. All right, cool. So I'm going to kick off. Number one, just a couple of things to kind of set the table for the day. For anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Matt Erdman. I am the operating principal, which in Keller Williams lingo means the owner of KW Legacy Partners in Connecticut. So we have a market center in West Hartford, and then we have multiple business centers throughout the state. So other offices throughout the state of Connecticut. I'm also the operating principal of Keller Williams New England. So I run the region with an amazing team, Nate Dickey, Jen Bovey, Cassie is our operations manager, and Brooke Silva, who is our regional tech driver, all really great resources for you guys. So number one, today we are going to talk about what I think is one of the most important things in this business, and one of the things that is the most underserved in our industry, which is we're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about how to run your business like a business, how to control the flow of cash. So it's a really strange thing. And I'll share kind of my early ahas getting into the business. So I started with a different company. I was an agent in Massachusetts. And when I got in the business, I had two ahas really early in the business. So the office that I joined had some of the top producing agents in that particular area. These are the folks who had signs all over town, billboards, right? They were like iconic in the business. And as I started to spend time in the office and just kind of watch how people operated, there were two ahas I had. One is I saw a lot of people working 80 hours a week, nights, weekends, missing time with their family, spending vacations with their phone glued to their ear rather than enjoying their vacation and their family time. And I remember thinking, it doesn't look like they're doing this because they choose to. It seems like they're doing it because they have to, right? So like one of my early ahas was, man, these folks are, and there's no disrespect to any of these people. They were wonderful people, but I was shocked to see that 20, 30 years into the business, they were still putting in those kinds of hours and missing time with their family, not because they wanted to, but because they had to, right? So like my first aha was, okay, there's a lot that I can learn from these individuals, but there's a lot that I'm going to have to learn how not to do. Because in my mind, I'll outwork anybody if I choose to, when I choose to, yet in my mind, 20, 30 years into a business, if it still requires me to put in 60, 70, 80 hours a week, that's not a business, it's a job. And it may be a very fun job, it may be a very well-paying job, yet it's still a job. So that was kind of my first aha. My second aha was even more alarming. I started to get to know these individuals personally. And as I got to know them, I discovered a lot of them had financial problems. They were behind on taxes, whatever the case may be. And that to me was shocking, right? Like young, naive, green to the industry. I'm going, I know how many houses they sell. I know what the average commission is. How is it even possible that they could have financial challenges? It didn't make any sense to me. And then fast forward, I got into leadership. And in leadership, my door became the door that people knocked on to talk about what was happening behind the curtain, right? And what I realized very quickly is that it was the majority, not the minority, that had financial challenges. And I believe the primary reason is, number one, we go and take pre-licensing class. They basically teach us how to get a real estate license. Can we all agree to that? Like that is what we learn in PMP. We learn how to pass a test so that we can get a license. Then we get in the industry, we join a brokerage, and the truth is, we're seeing this change to a degree, yet historically, once you're with a brokerage, the training, the education, the tools, the systems, everything is about producing. So lead generation, generating business, and servicing clients. Yet there's been a massive gap in our industry for the history of real estate and teaching people how to actually run a business, right? So what ends up happening is you have an industry of people behaving like salespeople instead of business owners. And without the acumen to understand the back end of the business, the financials, you can generate a lot of income and not hold on to any of it, right? So this is by far the two things I'm most passionate about teaching is personal financials, business financials, and investing, right? Because in my mind, we have the opportunity to be in an industry where we can literally make as much money as we choose. Decide the number. If you're willing to put in the work, you can go out and earn that money. We have agents in our system in Keller Williams nationally that are earning $3 million plus annually from their real estate sales business, and others that are making significantly more than that. Now, it doesn't mean we all want to earn that much money or want to put in the work, yet the point is the path from wherever you are to however much money you want to make is entirely possible. Yet, if at the end of our career, all we have is a bunch of medals and awards and great stories, and we have no actual wealth, then that's a challenge, right? And the beauty of our business is we can make as much as we want, and we make that money helping people buy and sell the greatest wealth building asset in the history of the world, right? So the smartest thing we can do is master our craft, serve our clients really well, learn how to operate as a business owner rather than a salesperson, and then take that money that we earn and invest it to build real, true wealth so that at the end of your career, you have more than medals and stories to share. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Before I jump into content, does anybody have anything that they want to talk about from, previous classes, struggles that they're having right now? Is there anything that anybody wants to bring up before we dive into the content? Everybody's good? Okay. All right, let's roll. But do me a favor, seriously. I want this to be engaging. So as I'm talking, if you have a question, jump in. If you have the more this is back and forth, the more fun it's going to be for everyone and the more we're all going to learn. So please don't be afraid to unmute and interact. All right, so let's get rolling here. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, you guys seeing the slides? Slides? Yes? Okay. That's the interaction part.
Yes.
By the way, you can unmute.
Yes.
You can unmute and stay off mute if that makes it easier to interact. All right, so the goal of today, let me just slide you guys up. Okay, so the goal for today is to dive into the financial side of the business. So our goal is to make sure that by the end of today's class, you guys understand kind of the flow of money inside of your real estate sales business, and you have some best practices to implement around those. Okay. I'm not sure how long everybody in this group has been with KW, but you're probably noticing we have a lot of models and systems, right? We are a company that is built on models and systems. The reason for that is the more we can build our business on the shoulders of the giants who have come before us, right? Then we inherit everything that they have learned and we get to start where they finished, which is why we build everything on proven systems, proven models. So our first slide here, this is what successful agents do every day. You should print this, you should hang this on your bathroom mirror, you should put it in your car next to your desk. Like, these are the activities that lead to success in our business. So on one side, you have growing the business. And you have to remember, the way Gary Keller always says it, regardless of the business you're in, you are in two businesses. It doesn't matter if you're a dentist, a carpenter, a roofer, a real estate agent, a loan officer, pick the business, it does not matter. We are all in two businesses, the business that we are in and lead generation, right? Because no matter what the business is if we don't have clients to provide our services or our products to, then we do not have a business. So regardless of the business that we are in two, that business plus lead generation. So when you look at this slide, basically they're separating it into two types of activities: the activities to grow the business, the activities to run/operate the business. So on the grow side, we have lead generate for buyers and sellers. Okay, I will share this with you. Any new agent who has ever asked me, if you had one piece of advice, what would that advice be? I have given everybody who has ever asked me that question the exact same answer. In my entire career, of all the people who have asked me that question that I've given the exact same answer to, one has actually taken the advice and done it. And that individual built a $20 million sales business in 2 years. Does anybody want to know what the advice was?
Yes.
Yes.
And here's the thing, I'm going to tell you, and I would challenge you to do it. Nobody does it. I've been in leadership for 15 years. One in 15 years did this, and in 2 years, they built a $20 million business. And my advice is always the same. The very first day that you are a real estate agent, if you have no appointments, you have 8 hours to lead generate. Spend 8 hours lead generating. If that's Monday, on Tuesday, you still have no appointments, you spend 8 hours lead generating. On Wednesday, you have one appointment. That's going to take you 2 hours in drive time plus time at the appointment. You're down to 6 hours. You lead generate for 6 hours. Do that for a year. You will have a massive business. And yes, you will always have to lead generate, but you will not have to lead generate at that level your entire career. The momentum that you will create in a 12-month period, you will have a massive, massive business. That is the advice. Again, 15 years, one person did it, $20 million in 2 years, right? So lead generation is number one. Lead generating for buyers and sellers. Make seller listing presentations and get listings, right? If you're new to the business, a lot of people, and I want to stress, it doesn't have to be this way, but a lot of people start in the business on the buyer side rather than the list side. Primary reason for that is usually the first business we do is with people we know, right? We call it our sphere of influence. Those are the people who already know us, like us, and trust us. That's usually who we first transact with. That is also, in our lead generation, the first group we want to focus on. We want to focus on reaching out to the people who already know us, like us, and trust us, to let them know that we're in the real estate business. Those are the people who are willing to do business with you early. And that's typically where our first transactions come from. Oftentimes, they happen to be on the buyer side. Doesn't always have to be that. I was an anomaly. I started in a place where I knew nobody. So I did not have a sphere of influence in my market because I just recently moved there. So all of my activities were proactive lead generation activities that generated listings. So I think my first 5 transactions were all on the list side before I ever worked with a buyer. When you're actively prospecting, if you can choose activities that drive listings, when you have the listings will generate buyer leads, right? So a lot of times you'll hear people say he or she who controls the listings controls the market. You'll hear listings beget buyers, right? These are all phrases you'll hear. But at the end of the day, if you focus as much of your activities as you can on generating listing leads, once you list that property, the marketing of that property will create the buyer leads. By the way, this is also why a lot of top agents who are been in the business for a while, they're proactive, they're actively growing their business. A lot of them, 100% of their activities are focused on listings. Yet if you look at their business, you're hard pressed to find an agent who isn't 50-50 buyer seller or 60% seller, 40% buyers. Even though all their activities are around generating listings, the reason is if you go get the listing generates the buyers. So we're lead generating for buyers and sellers. We're going on listing presentations and getting listings. We're making buyer presentations to get buyer listings, and we're previewing real estate. Okay. So all of those are about generating opportunities to do business with people. And the last one is about building your knowledge of your local market. The more real estate you can go out and see, the more knowledgeable you are, the better you're going to be at your craft. On the other side, we have run your business. So that is market, seller listings. So that's marketing the listings that you're getting from the activities you're doing on the left side, showing buyers homes, negotiating contracts, transaction management and closing. So that's once they're under contract, just managing that transaction, vendor management. One of the things as a newer agent, you want to start to build out your team, right? So you want to be thinking about who are all the different professionals that a homeowner may need when they are buying, selling, and I'm going to stress buying, selling, or owning a home. Bear with me for a minute. I'm just trying to move things around. I've got multiple screens going. Give me one sec. Oh. All right, you guys have my slides again?
Yes.
All right, perfect. I'm just trying to navigate you guys so I can see you while I'm talking. Building out that team. So think about all the different professionals that a homeowner is going to need again to buy, sell, and own a home. Okay. And you want to start introducing yourself to people and starting to build out that team. So at your market center, number one, they may have provided some of those for you. They might have a mortgage relationship. They might have an insurance relationship. Ask if they do. If they don't, find out who people recommend in your office. Start reaching out to people and building those relationships. One of the things that was most effective as an active agent for myself, one of my favorite lead generation was business to business. Reaching out to other business owners. And here's how I would do it. I simply just made a list of every professional that could help me with my business, or I could help them with their business. Here's the beauty of business owners. Business owners understand reciprocation, right? We understand that in order to build a business, we need people to work with, and we understand reciprocation. So when you help me build my business, I feel inclined to help you build your business. So business to business relationships can generate a lot of loyal, repeat referral business. And here's the beauty. If you make that list of all the individuals that could help you or your clients, and or you could help them and their clients, and then you start looking at that list and figuring out who is the best at that in your particular market, and you start reaching out to those individuals to create relationships, what you end up doing is building a network of business owners that you can help them and they can help you. It also makes your lead generation, or your relationship cultivation with your past clients really, really easy. Here's why. Once you close on the property, when you have that group of people, once you close on the property at the closing table, you can say to the seller, Tim, super excited for you and your wife with your new home. By the way, Tim, I have no idea if you're married or not, but you just got married if you weren't already married. Why don't you unmute for a minute? Are you married?
I am not married, but I did just buy a home.
Okay, perfect. So Tim, I'm super excited that you got your new home. And I want you to know, now that you've closed on the property, for better or worse, I don't actually go away. My goal is to be your real estate advisor for the rest of your life. And I need to ask you to do me a favor. Now that you own a home, there's going to be points of time that you need people, right? That might be a plow person. That might be a landscaper. That might be a gutter guy. That might be an electrician, a roofer, a painter. Whatever you need, do me a favor. Please don't roll the dice on Google. I have a person that I trust for everything you could possibly need. If you need something, call me and I will connect you with somebody that I know and trust. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
Awesome. And by the way, once in a while, I'm just going to check in with you, see how you're doing, and see if you need anything.
That sounds great to me. Really appreciate it, Matt.
Awesome. Right. So that's the script of the closing table. Now, in my database, I put a reminder to reach out to Tim every 90 days. And by the way, my reach out is super simple. It's not weird. It's not uncomfortable. I just call Tim. Hey, Tim, what's going on, brother? How's the house?
It's going really well, but I think snow season's coming up, and I think I might need a plow guy. Do you happen to know anyone?
I do actually. Yeah. I got a guy, William Gonzalez is his name. He's phenomenal. He's actually in your town. Let me give him a call right now. I'll get you guys connected.
Perfect. Really appreciate that.
Right. Like that's it. Literally my only client follow-up after we closed was a home anniversary, right? Anniversary of them buying them a home, sending some kind of a thank you or some kind of a card or whatever that may be, a birthday if I had it. Yes, I would put them on automated stuff. inside of our CRM. My only direct contact and activity I was personally doing was every 90 days, checking in with Tim. How you doing? Dude, have you gotten married yet? You got 3 bedrooms, dude. What are you doing? Like, it's time for you to get a hitch, man. You need a woman in your life. By the way, how's the house? Do you need anything? Right? Like, that's it. And by the way, they appreciated it because I was always coming from contribution. Now, the flip side of that, every time they need somebody, what am I doing? I'm going back to my business relationships and I'm giving them a new client, which is helping them to build their business. Well, guess what happens when they know someone who's buying or selling real estate? They think of the guy or the gal who's always sending them business, right? One serves the other, right? So business to business is a phenomenal means of lead generation that allows you to build something where you can always come from contribution and benefit significantly from building those relationships. Right. Before you know it, if you do that and do it well, before you know it, you'll have a roofer calling you when he sees a for sale by owner. Right. And you'll be calling your roofer when you see a house with shingles falling off it and being like, hey, you need to send a flyer to 123 Main Street. Their shingles are literally falling off the house. You just start to reciprocate. Right. So build out that team. Set your goals, right? Goals are huge. If you don't know what it is you're trying to accomplish, you don't know what to do, and you don't know if you're doing the right activities, right? So the way Gary Keller always says it is the purpose of a goal is to inform the plan. So you have to set a goal so that you can then go backwards to create a plan that's going to allow you to achieve the goal. If you don't have the goal, you don't actually know what you're doing, right? It's like leaving on a family vacation with no destination. Like, you're going to end up somewhere. The question is where. You have no map, you have no GPS, you're just taking lefts and rights and going straight and running stoplights, and who knows where you're going to end up. You got to have a plan, you got to have the goal informs the plan. Number 7 is compliance and risk management, right? That's really going back to transaction management, just managing that transaction, attending training and getting coaching. Here's my advice around training and coaching. Number 1, we are so blessed to be with the company that is the #1 training company across all industries, not just real estate. And I say that having started my career in a different place. So when I came here, the amount of training, tools, resources, I was just blown away. I went from trying to reinvent the wheel and feeling like, why does it feel like I'm the first human to ever sell real estate? I feel like there should be a lot of groundwork here that I can just build on top of. Yet it feels like I'm starting from scratch. And then the opposite happened. I came to Keller, and every thought, idea, anything I had, my leadership would be like, yeah, that's cute, Matt. You're not the first guy to sell real estate. There's a model, there's a class, go copy it. And I'd be like, oh, that's amazing. Massively shrunk my learning curve. So lean into the training. And this is where coaching is really important. Coaching is different than training. Training is going and learning. Coaching is what's going to help you to actually implement what you're learning and have accountability. The biggest pitfall we have in our industry is nobody's going to fire you. Right? If you have a job and you don't show up to work, they fire you. In our industry, you can get a license, do nothing, and the vast majority of the time, as long as you don't do something illegal or unethical, you will not get fired. You'll just be broke. But the industry will allow you to stay there and be broke, right? But you have to recognize that's your choice. The tools, the resources, the leadership, the coaching, everything you need to be successful is there, but you have to plug into it. So training and coaching are 2 different things. Training is learning. Coaching is implementation and accountability. So if you're not already in a coaching program in your local market center, find out who you need to talk to and get enrolled in coaching. Because here's the other piece of it. There is so much training, so many tools, and so many resources inside of Keller Williams that if you are not careful, you can become the smartest, brokest realtor on the planet. Because the truth is, you could just train all day, every day for 8 hours and be super smart and have really impressive conversations at your cocktail parties and at Easter and at Thanksgiving and never sell real estate because all you're doing is learning and you're not implementing. Here's what coaching can do for you. Coaching helps you decide, A, what is the goal? Okay, great. Now let's reverse engineer a plan to achieve that goal. Then it's what are the activities and what is my growth plan? What do I have to go learn so I can execute on the plan? And that allows you to put blinders on to say, okay, right now at this stage of my career, this is what I have to learn and this is what I have to do. And it's okay for me to put blinders on and ignore the rest. Once I execute and implement, I can go back and get more, right? It's like going to the buffet. Like the beauty of the buffet is you can keep going up and getting more. But you don't have to get everything you need in one run, right? Tim, it looks like you have something to say.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. I'm fairly new. I just recently got onboarded, and so looking through all the trainings, it's amazing. What KW offers, and I'm excited to really dig in and learn. And just like you mentioned, I'm seeing there's team huddles at 9 a.m., but then we have the Ignite trainings from 9 to noon. So how to complete everything that's required, but also will obviously help you in your career here, and how to balance that, because the Ignite trainings seem to be almost every day, maybe, not one day a week, it looks like. So just wondering if you had any insight on best practices to kind of take advantage of everything.
Yeah, 100%. So here's one of the things, and this is a little off topic, but it's a really good question and it's really important. One of the things you got to do, and again, a coach will help you with this in your market center, is you have to build your calendar. Okay. In a perfect world, the most important thing is your lead generation that happens first thing in the morning. Whatever that time frame is, whether it's from 8 to 11, 9 to 12, at a minimum, especially early, we should be doing 3 hours of lead generation. And it should be in the morning. The reason it's in the morning is twofold. One, it's when our energy is the best. It's really three. One, our energy is the best. Two, we have less distractions at the beginning of the day. The further the day goes, the more things start to pull us in different directions. And three, that early part of the day is the portion of the day that once we're actively working with clients, there are less people looking for us. Because if you think about it, beginning of the day, the average American is getting up, getting ready for work, getting their kids off to school, commuting to work, getting started. The reality is it's usually like 11, 12 o'clock by the time they have a space in their own day to start reaching out to us for whatever it is that they need. So that time frame is the time frame you want to do your lead generation. So what I would recommend is set your calendar, block that time, and then use an erase and replace mentality. Okay, but Ignite is at 9 o'clock. So I can't lead generate. You're right. But right now you need Ignite. So erase and replace. I'm going to do Ignite from this time to this time, and then I'm going to move my lead generation to this time. Okay.
Awesome. Yep.
As you go forward, what I would recommend from a calendar standpoint, number one, lead generation has to be non-negotiable. Like if there's anything I can drive home, anyone who actually commits to lead generation consistently will be successful. Actually, I'm going to share a story too. When I was an agent in the Longmeadow office, that's where I started with Keller. I used to be like the only person in the office early in the morning doing lead generation. A new agent joined the company. All of a sudden, this other individual was in the office early in the morning with me. And I'm not saying this to be mean, but she was a socially awkward human being. That's just the reality. She was. And she would walk around what we called the bullpen area of the market center in her bare feet, practicing her scripts at the top of her lungs. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, blah, 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 right? And then every now and then she would poke her head into my office and be like, am I bothering you? And I'd say, no, I didn't even notice you. You're totally cool. You're fine. Don't worry. And I would keep doing my thing. When she sat down to make calls, she sat at a cube right outside of my office and my door would be open and I would hear her lead generating. Again, I'm not being mean. This ends with a positive note. She was not good. I would cringe when I heard her on the phone. And then I would ask myself, should I go out and help her and risk offending her, or should I just leave her alone? Today, I probably would go out and offer some tips. At that point, I wasn't confident enough to do that. So I was like, I don't want to offend her. I'm just going to let her do her thing. And then all of a sudden, one day I hear her book an appointment. And I'm like, get out. Like that stuttering script just booked a listing appointment. That's amazing. So I poke my head out. I'm like, hey, you got one. She's like, I did. Oh, cool. High five. Like, fast forward. An agent comes, knocks on my door. This agent took 5 listings in a month. And this is during a real estate crash. Another agent knocks on my office door. She's got like 30 years experience, used to own her own brokerage. And she says to me, can you believe so-and-so took 5 listings this month? I said, yeah, actually I can. She's like, how the hell did she do that? I said, I can tell you exactly how she did it. She's here every single morning lead generating. And guess what? She's terrible at it. However, she's swinging the bat, and even being bad at it, she took 5 listings. And if she keeps doing it, she's eventually going to get good at it. And she's going to take 10 listings. That's how she did it. Right? Like that's like, if I can drive anything home, and I know it's not a financial conversation, but lead generation is the tip of the spear. Put in the time, put in the work, and there's a million ways to do it, but do the lead generation time. So number 1, block that lead gen time. Use erase and replace. If I have to erase it, I don't erase it, I move it. As you get a little bit further down the road and you're out of like the heavy learning curve, you want to be really purposeful about structuring your day. And typically, I would encourage you to structure the first half of your day and leave the rest of your day flexible. If you are highly disciplined and you build out your calendar for the first half of the day and you wake up every morning with the mindset that my job is to follow my calendar, if it's in my calendar for that day, I'm going to do it at that time for the time span I said I would. You only have to do that for the first half of the day. And yes, I'm telling you, if you're brand new, I would do it all day until you have appointments. As you get momentum, structure your first half of the day, leave the second half of the day flexible to go to training, to be out with clients, to manage your transactions, all of those other things. So focus on building that first half of the day and not just the business side. Like, what is your morning routine? What time do I need to get up? Do I work out? Like, what is that morning routine? Build out your calendar such that if you do everything in your calendar by noon, no matter what happens the second half of the day, you can feel like you won the day because you know you did what you are supposed to do. Does that help? Awesome. Cool. All right. Attend training, get coaching, and lastly, manage your money. Okay, so here's going to be the flow. We're going to talk about MREA models. We're going to talk about the flow of money. We're going to build out our future plan. We're going to focus on best practices, daily habits, and then we're going to recap and create your success plan. Okay. All right, habits for a financially sound business. Let me see. William, would you mind reading number 1 for me?
Yes, set a profit goal that funds your big life and pursue the activities to achieve it.
Perfect. First thing, and I want you guys to do this right now. Take a piece of paper, or even better yet, I want you to put it on paper, but I want you to put it in the chat also. What is your income goal for your first 12 months in real estate? Okay, so step 1, we're going to decide how much money do we want to make. Step 2 is to estimate, save for, and pay your taxes on time. Somebody unmute and tell me when taxes are due.
Every 3 months.
Who said that?
William,
How long have you been a realtor?
I've had my license now for about 1.5 years. I did a couple of transactions, but my tax consultant told me every 3 months.
Okay, so William officially gets the Genius Award. Usually what I hear is the date that we're due to file our taxes. That is not true. It's supposed to be done quarterly. If you early in your career can get in the habit of putting your tax money aside and actually paying it on a quarterly basis, it will be the greatest gift that you can give to yourself financially. Here's the challenge. We get a paycheck. The government doesn't take their piece out of it. It is our responsibility to set that aside so that when it's due, we can give it to the government. Here's what happens. We get in the business. We're doing a lot of work. It takes time for the results to show up. By the time we get the check, we feel like we need the check. We've earned the check, whatever the case may be. We spend the money and we go, the next check, I'll put the whole thing away. Right. And then we get that and we don't do that. And this snowball happens. Next thing you know, it's actual tax time. And we get a bill. And we go, oh, shoot, I owe X amount of dollars and I don't have it. Right. And here's the tricky thing. If you're a hustler, what you're going to do is what hustlers do when their back is against the wall. You're going to go out and you're going to find the business to earn the money to pay that off. And here's the problem. By the time you do that, you are now behind on the next year's taxes. But because you're hustling, you're now selling more houses, which means the money you owe the government that you haven't set aside is more now. Full circle back to tax time. Guess what happens? You get a bill again, but this time it's even bigger. And you're a hustler and your back's against the wall. So you hustle and you find the money and you pay it, except now you're behind on this year's taxes and you're selling even more real estate. So the money you owe that you haven't put aside has gotten even bigger. And it is a matter of time until this cycle gets too big and the house of cards comes down. Eventually you get that bill and there isn't any hustle in the world that's going to generate the income in the amount of time necessary to be able to pay that bill. And that's when the house of cards comes down. Tons of stress on you, your family, if you have a family, completely unnecessary. Live on the money that you actually earned. Get that money out of your hands as quickly as possible. A little pro tip, you're not going to believe this. The IRS will take your money any day you want to give it to them. Doesn't even have to be quarterly. They have a website. You can set up an account, and should you choose, every single check you get, you could pull the taxes out and give it to the IRS the day you get the check and completely protect yourself from spending money that is not yours and completely eliminate the risk of falling into that trap. Get the money out of your hands as quickly as you can. It is the number one challenge that real estate agents get themselves into is tax problems. Okay, number 3. Use proven models and systems of the MREA chart of accounts. Okay, we're going to dive into that. Again, we have a model. They tell us, they give us a chart of accounts. They tell us at different levels of business how much money we should be spending on different things. Be fiscally savvy by reviewing your financials monthly. You need to have a P&L, profit and loss statement. You have to review that profit and loss statement on a monthly basis. If you don't, you are not a business owner. You're a salesperson. There's nothing wrong with being a salesperson, but that is not what you are. You are a business owner who happens to be in a sales industry. You have to have a P&L. You have to review it monthly. Pay yourself a salary. One of the best things you can do. And by the way, I live in the real world. My feet are planted firmly on the ground. Early in our careers, it can be tough to pay ourselves a salary because it does take some time to get enough momentum where the transactions are coming in consistently enough to do that. Set it as a goal to get there, to get to a place where you can give yourself a set income and allow the rest of the money to stay in the business to be reinvested into the business for growth. If you can get there, it is a much stabler way to grow your business. That is how most business operate. There are very few businesses where the business owner just empties the bank account at the end of every month and takes all the money home, right? That is a recipe for disaster. So as soon as you can get there, pay yourself a salary. By the way, there's some tax advantages to that when you get there as well. And if anybody wants to talk about it at the end and we have time, we can talk about that. Prepare now for a financially secure future. Here's what you have to know about real estate. Real estate booms and real estate crashes. It is a cycle. It happens. You need to be prepared for it. And oh, by the way, it is important to know if you are consistently lead generating to grow your business, you don't have to crash when the real estate market crashes. The truth of the matter is, in a real estate crash, the top agents take market share. They do more business because they're doing the work. they actually get their unfair share of the business during a crash. So top agents, when I say top agents, all I mean is agents who are going to work every day. They're treating it like a real business and a real job, and they're doing the work every single day. Their business grows in a real estate crash. So you have to understand there's two markets, the market and your market. You have the ability to create your own market. In either case, though, you need to build your business such that you are prepared for market shifts, so that when it shifts, you're not under financial pressure, your head is clear, and you can strategize on how to take advantage of that market. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So this quick quote from Gary Keller: money is good for the good that it can do. One thing I'll lean into on this, I do actually.
Sorry. Matt, can you advance the slides?
What are you looking at right now?
What successful agents do every day?
That's weird. That's not what I'm looking at. What do you see now?
Same thing.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I see the same thing, Matt.
thing too.
All right, let me do this quick. I'm going to stop sharing, because that's strange, because that is not what is on my screen. Try this. All right, what do you see now?
Yeah, now we see the quote by Gary Keller.
Okay, let me know if that happens again. So money is good for the good that it can do. What I would add to this, I do think it's important. You'll hear the language in KW about the big why, right? Like, why am I doing what I'm going to do, right? If I ask somebody, how much do you want to earn your first 12 months in real estate? And they say $100,000. Can anybody guess what my next question is?
How many appointments do you need to set to get there?
I'm going to get there, but it won't be my next question. That is definitely going to be one of them. Maureen, what would my next question be?
Are you lead generating?
Okay, these are great questions. And yes, I would get to these questions. My next question would actually be why? Why 100,000? What will $100,000 in income in your first 12 months do for you? What will it do for your family if you have a family? What will you have in your life when you earn that money that you don't currently have? Those are going to be the questions I ask. Does anybody know why I'm going to ask those questions?
You want to know why, so you have a reason to a lot deeper than just money as to why you're actually working, you're out there doing your lead generation, and you stay consistent on those harder days.
Yes, you are the new genius in the class. I apologize. Who did I just take that award from? William, I took that award away. You're still a genius, but there's two of you now. So you're 100% correct. Here's the reality. Almost everything worth doing in life ends up being harder than we expected it to do. That's just the truth, right? The universe makes us earn our stripes, period, end of story. When things get tough, for most people, the idea of making 100 grand isn't enough to drive us to do the things that we don't want to do or push through the challenges that we're facing. Most of us, it's got to be something bigger. What does the $100,000 do for me? Right? Maybe I'm raising my family in an apartment and my dream is to be able to buy a home to raise my family. And if I earn $100,000 in the next 12 months, my goal is to go buy a home and surprise my family. I'm just making a thing up. That's a driver. That is a thing that will get you out of bed. That is a thing that will make you do things you're uncomfortable doing until you get comfortable, right? That is what's going to push you when you don't feel like doing what you know you need to do. So I would encourage you, whatever that profit goal is, right? You guys wrote that down on a piece of paper. I would encourage you underneath that, either write what that big why is, or just write why. so that you can go back to it and answer it. Because knowing what that thing is a driver. Like that's going to push you a lot harder than a random dollar amount on a piece of paper. Okay. All right. Financially sound and unsound. So on the left-hand side, we have the path of money in an unsound model. That is, we sell a home, we get a commission, right? We have a split with the brokerage. In this scenario, it's a $9,000 commission. I am Jessica Campbell. I get $5,760. I then deposit that money into my personal bank account, and then I spend it. That is an unsound financial model, right? We have not put any money aside for business expenses to reinvest. We have not put any money aside for taxes, right? We're spending money that is not ours. On the right-hand side, we have the correct path of money. Sell that same house, $9,000 commission. I get the same check, which is $5,760. I take a percentage of that, $1,728, which, let's double check that math real quick. That's 1,728 divided by 5,760. Oops. 28 divided by 760. So in this example, I'm taking 30% and I'm putting it into a business bank account. That is the money that I'm setting aside to be able to reinvest in my business and create reserves for my business. That's 30%, which, by the way, later we're going to talk about the economic model, or I'm sorry, the financial model, which is 30, 30, 40. Which means 30% of our income goes to cost of sale, 30 to expenses, 40% net profit. That's why that's 30%, right? So in this model, we're putting 30% aside into a business bank account. Then $4,032 goes into our personal bank account. Now we have to set aside money for taxes. We set aside $1,613 in this example. That is $996 for state and federal taxes, and then self-employment taxes. How many people know about self-employment tax? Yeah, a lot of people don't. So here's the interesting thing. If you have a job right now, you pay taxes out of every paycheck you get. What you may or may not know is whatever you pay in taxes, your employer also pays. You are paying part of the taxes and your employer is paying part of the taxes. The gift of being self-employed from a tax standpoint is you are both the employee and the employer, which means you pay both sides of the taxes, right? They call that self-employment tax. So you have to prepare for that. So the number one thing to take away here, and again, that piece of paper you're making notes on, write on that piece of paper, open business account. You want to have separate accounts for your personal and your business. Now, a lot of people get really, really wrapped around the axle here. Like, oh, well, in order to open a business account, I have to have an EIN. In order to have an EIN, I have to open an LLC, which means I have to register with the state, and there's costs involved with that. Stop it. Go to the bank, open a regular bank account, and just call it your business account. Just name it. If you're at TD, open another bank account, go in, nickname it business, use that account. Don't overcomplicate it. The point is just to keep the money separate. Okay. What I would encourage you is you should have your personal bank accounts. You should have your business account at a minimum. And then you should have your tax reserve account. That's where you put the money that you are not allowed to touch. And again, I would strongly encourage you, take that money out of the check, every check you get, and give it to the IRS the day you get it. Is the smartest thing you can do, because it is really hard when we're in a pinch. Here's the funny thing. Somebody once told me all businesses and humans consume 100% of the capital made available to them. Which means if the money is there, we find a way to spend it. How many people have gotten an extra $500, $1,000, whatever the case may be, put it in their personal bank account, fast forward 30, 45 days, it's gone and we don't know what we did with it. Am I the only one that's ever happened to? Yes? Just me? Okay. Tim's done it. Monique's done it. Okay, there's a couple of us. I'm not the only one. Good. All right, good. Okay, we're all getting honest here. Yeah, it's the truth. So the faster you can get the money out of your hands, eliminate that temptation and you don't have to worry about it. Okay. Anybody have any questions about the flow of capital through your business?
Matt, the 40, 30, 30 again was the business account.
30% goes into your business account. Yep. Now, in this example, let me just run the math real quick. Let's see. Uh, 1613 divided by 0.32. Let's see what this is. That's 4. 13. So in this example, that $4,000 that you put into your personal account, that's 1613 represents 40% of the deposit that you put into your bank account. So if you want to just like write simple numbers, 30% of the check into the business account, 40% of the remaining amount into the tax account. The balance is yours to go to Sizzler with. Nobody goes to Sizzler. I just love saying it. Okay. And by the way, you might say 40%. That's insane. I'm not paying 40% taxes. Well, you got to remember this 1728 that you left in your business, you're still going to pay taxes on that. Right. In a business, you don't pay taxes on the money you take out and use. You pay taxes on the profit, whether you take it out or not. That's why that percentage seems high. But if you're trying to keep it simple to just have a model, check comes in 30% into the business account. The rest goes into personal, 40% of that into a tax account. The rest is mine to spend. Questions? Okay. All right. So here's an example. One transaction, $9,000 commission, 5760 is the net. This is what we just went through. What ended up in our pockets was 2419. Okay. Now, here's the thing. For a lot of us, we look at that original check, the 5,700, and we go, really? 2,400 ends up in my account, and all of a sudden it doesn't feel as exciting. That is a massive margin on a business. Massive. Right? When you talk about being able to operate a business with a 40% profit margin, that is a huge profit margin. Right? Like some of the biggest companies that you know and could name operate on decimals, fractions of a percentage in profit. They're massive businesses, so that fraction adds up to a lot of money. But just know, if you have an opportunity to create a business with a 40% profit margin, you're in a good business. You're in a really good business. Right? All right. So this is a slide I added. If you want to take a snapshot of it, this is kind of what I coach and train to. It is what I just showed you, just at a little bit of a higher level. I don't want to confuse anybody. If you want to take a snapshot, I'll walk through it really quick. The model we just went through works: personal account, business account, tax account. I gave you the numbers: 30% into business, 40% of the remainder into taxes. You're in good shape. Okay. This is a model that I teach and train to that is a little bit sort of like next level. Again, I don't want to confuse. The idea behind it is very, very simple. It goes back to the concept of all people and businesses consume 100% of the capital made available. So in theory, we should protect ourselves from that bad habit. So the idea is, on the business side, you have two bank accounts. You have a capital and you have an operating. Capital is where you put your cash reserves. Operating is where you write checks from out of the business. The idea behind it is as you get your business going and you're starting to build up those reserves, every check you get goes into the capital account. At the end of every month, you transfer your budget for your business into your operating account. You decide, right? Because you've created a plan. My business is going to cost me $5,000 a month to operate, $2,000 a month to operate, whatever the number is. At the end of every month, you move that money into the checking account. You cut yourself a check for the salary you've agreed to pay yourself, and then all your business expenses get written out of your business checking account. Okay, the idea behind it is this: when you start your operating account with only the amount of money you have committed to spend, if you spend more, there's a pattern interrupt because you have to go move money. So you cannot do it without it being a conscious decision that you are spending outside of your business budget. As opposed to it's all there and I'm just going, sure, I'm swiping and right, just doing my thing. And next thing you know, I look up and I go, what the hell happened? It creates a pattern interrupt that forces you to acknowledge you are spending more money than you committed to spend in your business. On the personal side, it's the exact same thing. Once the check comes in, we move our 40% over to the tax account. And then, so it goes into my savings. I put 40% into my tax account, and same thing on a personal level, I have a budget. It costs me $5,000 a month to run my household. I put $5,000 in my checking account and I pay all my bills and all my expenses out of that checking account. If I spend more than $5,000, and that's what I have said I have available to spend on a monthly basis, again, pattern interrupt forces me to go move money. And I have to acknowledge that I'm not following the budget that I set for myself personally. The reason I like this model is one, it protects us from our own bad financial habits. And then on the personal side, what we have to remember, what stops most of us from building wealth is as our income increases, we increase our lifestyle in tandem. And in doing so, we never have money to invest. Right? Building wealth is simple, not easy. And it is as simple as earn more, spend less than you make, and invest the difference. Like that is wealth building, period, end of story. Spend less than you make, that's the difference. So it's equally important to have good financial habits on the personal side as it is the business side, because especially in our business, let's be honest, there's a little ego in our business, right? Like we can fall into the trap of wanting to be flashy and drive the fancy car and wear the fancy clothes and have the bigger house and take the bigger vacations and post it all over Facebook and be like, look how cool we are. Yeah, all of that costs us money. I would argue the person who drives a nice car, has a nice house, wears nice clothes, and has a portfolio of investment properties that are cash flowing, I want to follow them on Facebook before I do the person with the fancy suit, the fancy car, and the fancy vacations, right? That's the person I want to emulate, right? So we got to set up our world to allow us to do those things. Does that make sense? Questions? Comments?
Makes sense.
Okay, so MREA economic model. Number one, if you have not read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, I would strongly encourage you to read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. That book is actually the reason I'm in this organization. Going back to what I talked about of feeling like I was reinventing the wheel early in my career, I was in between showings at Barnes & Noble. And I saw a book on the shelf. I was in the real estate section. I saw a book on the shelf with a really cheesy title. That's what I thought. I saw a Millionaire Real Estate Agent. I thought, what a cheesy title. I pulled it off the shelf and I started flipping through the book. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is what I've been looking for. It's literally a blueprint on how to build a massive real estate business, step by step, that I can just copy. Like that is what I had been asking for. At the time, I made no connection that this book was connected to a company. The book just made sense to me. So I bought it, I brought it home, I read it. When I finished it, I read it again, I highlighted it, and then I figured out where do I need to start? What do I need to implement now? If you haven't read it, read the book. Okay. So the economic model. Number one, GCI, gross commission income, is as simple as the price of the home that you sold times the commission that was charged. Okay. If it's a 6%, if you're listing the property and it's a 6% commission, if you double side the transaction, which means you listed it and you brought the buyer, your commission is going to be 6%. Somebody else brings the buyer, that person who brings the buyer is going to get a portion of that commission, be it 2.5 or 3%. Okay. What you get, that is your GCI. So if you're on the buyer side, $100,000 house for easy math, 3% commission, your GCI gross commission income is $3,000. Okay. Now, the model I had said earlier, 30, 30, 40, 30% you should plan for cost of sale. Cost of sale is any expense that only happens when you close a transaction. Okay. The most common examples of cost of sale are your split with your market center. Okay. Whether you're on most market centers, you're on a 30% split, you might be on a 20% split, depends on where you are. That split, that is a cost of sale. Fast forward, maybe you bring other salespeople into your world and you start building a team. Your split with them would be a cost of sale. If you pay a referral fee, okay, I call Maureen tomorrow and I say, Maureen, where do you live?
Where do I live? Drake it.
Great. Okay. No, she got nervous. Like, does he want my actual address? He's creepy. I'm not giving him my address. Great. Drake it is perfect. So I call you and I say, hey, I've got a friend of the family who's selling in Drake it. Can you handle it for me? 25% referral fee. Are you okay with that? You say, I'd love to do that. Awesome. That 25% referral fee, cost of sale. Right. So any expense that only happens when we close a transaction. Again, typically it's split with our market center, referral fee, or if we have team members that we're splitting with, those are the three most common. So we're going to budget 30% going to cost of sale. A note on that. I encourage people when we're creating our plan and we're working our numbers backwards, just to use that 30% number. If you are an individual agent, you have the opportunity to have that number be much smaller, right? We are in a capped system. So there is a maximum amount you can pay your market center in a given year. So if you are a capping agent who does enough business to cap and continue to do transactions afterwards, that percentage is going to continue to go down, 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 down. Right. So you have the opportunity for that to be much smaller in your business while you're an individual. Once you start bringing salespeople in, should you decide to do that, that number is going to creep up again. What I encourage people, just budget for 30%. The beauty is if you budget for 30%, the activities you're going to have to do in order to hit the goal are going to support hitting that goal with 30% cost of sale. If you do enough business to drive that cost of sale down, it just means you're going to do better than you planned. So it builds in a little insulation that if you fall a little short of your production goal, you may actually still hit your income goal. So just, I would encourage you to just leave it 30. Operating expenses, same thing, 30%. Okay. And then that leaves us with a margin of 40%. So that's what I mean when I say 30, 30, 40. Okay. So example over here is a $10,000 commission, cost of sale, 3,000. That assumes we're on a 30% split with our market center. We put $3,000 aside for operating expenses. That leaves us with a profit of $4,000. Okay. Any questions around that? Okay. All right. So let's talk about the flow of money. This is kind of like typical accounting. This is how we think about operating businesses. And what we're going to ask you to do is flip this concept upside down. So in the accounting world, we think about income. That's the money that comes in, right? That's our revenue, right? And it's really important to understand income is not profit. Revenue is not profit. Income and revenue is just the money that came into the business After that, we have our expenses and what's left is our profits. So in the accounting world, this is how we think about business. Our income minus our expenses equals our profit. Okay. We're going to ask you to conceptually flip that upside down and think about it differently. We're going to ask you to think about, what is my profit goal? How many homes do I have to sell in order to generate enough income that after expenses, I will hit that profit goal? It's the same math. The difference is up here. The difference is saying on the on the left-hand side, that is an outcome, right? We're saying whatever income comes in, I'm going to minus the expenses and I'm going to be left with this. On the other side, we're saying, whoa, let's make a mental shift here. Let's decide what we're going to make, do the math as to how many homes we have to sell and what our expenses will be at that level of production in order to create the profit I need, right? That's reverse engineering the plan. So going back to the purpose of a goal is to inform the plan. We're going to decide what profit we want to hit. Then we're going to run the calculations, which we're going to walk through to figure out how many homes I have to sell, right? We have a model that allows you to then say, okay, based on having that profit goal and the expenses, I have to sell X number of homes. We can drill that down even further to how many appointments do I need to have on a weekly basis in order to take enough listings, close enough buyers, to have the production necessary to pay my expenses and get the profit that I need. When you drill it down that small, that becomes your job. Your job is really simple. Whatever that number is, 2 appointments a week. My job is to go out and create 2 appointments a week such that I will get X number of listings, X number of closed buyers, which will lead me to the revenue necessary to pay the expenses and have the profit that I desire. So you're taking control of it rather than accepting an outcome. Okay. So different incomes inside of your business. And there's one here that I'm really going to stress. So we've got listing income. Okay. That's us listing somebody's home. We've got sales income. That's us helping a buyer purchase a home. We've got referral income. That is us referring a client to an agent and receiving a referral fee. And then we have leasing income. Leasing income is either helping a landlord lease an apartment or a rental property and or working with a tenant to find them a rental, right? Pretty simple. The one I would stress here is do not forget about referral income. So number one, when you're in Ignite, if you are not on Facebook on another screen, friending everybody you see on the screen, you're missing an opportunity. Like every Zoom you're in.
That's funny.
Right? You are all people who sell real estate, yet you all live in different places. That is part of the network that you build that allows you to do business. Right? The reason I want to make sure that I slow down on that one, I mentioned to you that when I started selling, I was in an area where I knew nobody, like literally nobody. Like I went to the office and I was like, went to the manager and I was like, okay, cool. I'm so excited. I'm ready to rock. What do I do? And they were like, okay, sphere of influence. I was like, what the hell's that? Those are the people you already know. They know you, like you, and trust you. I was like, cool. Go call all of them first. I was like, awesome. And then I came back like 15 minutes later. I was like, cool, what next? And they were like, huh? I was like, I know 11 people here. I just called them. What do I do now? Here's what they didn't say. They didn't say, wait a minute. Do you only know 11 humans or you only know 11 humans who live here? Then I would have said, oh, no, I know a lot more people, just none of them live here. Okay, you need to go tell those people you're in business too, because you can actually earn income and you can actually add value to them, even though they're not where you live. Because if they are buying and selling, you can help them get the right agent to service them and then receive a referral fee. And I would have went, oh, okay, that's cool. I got more calls to make. But nobody said that. So I did my 11 and then I went, what's next? Now, fast forward, I'm like a slow learner. It took me probably a year and a half to realize how much opportunity I was missing because family members, friends, all these people were buying real estate in other places. And I was not helping them and I was not earning any income from them. So don't forget about referrals, right? Wherever you went to high school, wherever you went to college, if you played on a sports team, those are all people you need to refine, relocate, refriend, build that network, make sure they know what you're doing. There is nothing wrong with making a phone call and getting a check for several $1,000s. Right. And by the way, you're adding real value if you do it correctly. Right? Like if you know that person better than anyone, if you make the phone call to that local market center where they live and say, hey, here's who I have, here's their personality, here's where they're looking, who's the best agent, who's going to be the best fit for them, personality and geographically. And that leader of that office makes the right connection. They have a better experience and you have the opportunity to earn income. So don't forget about the referral income. And friend everybody on the screen. All right, cost of sale. We talked about what that is. That is any expense that happens only when we close a transaction. That's commissions paid to the office. That's your royalty fees. I did leave that out. Commission splits paid to employees or independent contractors involved in your sales team, if you have a sales team, and referral fees. Those are your primary cost of sales. And again, we're budgeting 30% for those expenses. Okay. So we're going to run through a little bit of an exercise here. So what I want you guys to do, if you know the average commission.
Go out.
Sorry, go ahead. Somebody have a question? No. Okay. All right. So take a piece of paper and we're going to walk through this exercise together. So if you know the average commission in your area, that's going to be what you put in this first box. That's your gross commission income. Okay, so again, if the average commission in your market is $6,000, that's going to be $6,000. If you don't know the average commission, if you know the average sales price, it's about $250, it's about $3. I would multiply that by 2.6. That'll give you a good range, right? Some commissions are going to be 3%, some are going to be 2.5, 2.6 gives you a range. Average market center, if you look at their multi-year trends reports, most market centers as an average sit around 2.6% commission. So you're going to put that number in there. That's your gross commission income. Okay, then you're going to subtract your company dollar. So depending on your market center, you know if you're on a 80-20 or a 70-30. If you're on an 80-20, you're going to subtract 20%. And you're going to write that number there. If you're on a 70-30, you're going to subtract 30%, and you're going to write that number in the second box. Then we're going to do royalty. Sometimes there's some confusion around this. Both your company dollar split and your royalty split come off the GCI. Okay, so what that means is in this third box, you're going to multiply the 6,000, the number in the first box. You're going to multiply that by 6%. And then you're going to subtract that number from the second box. Okay, so if you had $6,000 as our example, and we were on a 30% split, that means 6 is your first box, 42 is your second box. Okay, and then in our third box, we went back to the 6,000. We multiplied that by 6%, which is $360. And we subtracted that from the second box, the 4,200. And that gave us 3,840, which would go in your last box. Okay, so using the 6,000 example, 6,000 is your first box, that's your GCI. you're subtracting 30%. And actually, you know what? I think I confused this a little bit. So I'm going to run through it one more time, less confusing. And we'll use 6,000. So $6,000 check times 30%. In our second box, that'd be 1,800. That's 6,000 times 30% is 1,800. Then we take our 6,000 times 6%. That would be 360. That goes in our third box. Okay, and then we just subtract. So we take our 6,000 minus the 1,800 minus the royalty. That gives us our net check, which should be 3,840. Okay, who did I confuse? Because the way I described that the first time, I think I confused people a little bit.
Yeah, I'm confused.
Who said that? Okay, Nicole.
Yes,
All right, Nicole, you have a piece of paper?
yes, I do.
Okay, so we're gonna walk through it together. Okay. So
Okay.
we're gonna assume your check is, you know what? Nicole, I think your commission is 10,000. I'm gonna give you, I can tell.
Okay.
You're gonna get the big stuff. All right, so we're gonna use $10,000. So draw these 4 boxes, just like this on a piece of paper.
Yes.
Okay. 10,000 goes in the first box. That is your gross commission income, your GCI. Okay.
Mhm.
Then we're gonna calculate your company dollar. That's your split with the market center. So we're gonna multiply 10,000 times 30%.
Mhm.
What do you get?
That's 3,000.
Okay, so second box, you're gonna write 3,000. Okay, now we're gonna calculate your royalty, which is 6%. So on that 10,000, we're gonna multiply that by 6%. What do you get?
Hold on.
What'd you get?
600.
600, yep. So now we have 10,000, 3,000, and 600 in those first 3 boxes. So now we're just gonna subtract 10,000 minus 3,000 gets us 7,000. Minus 600 gets us 6,400.
Yes.
That's your net, okay?
Yeah.
So when you close a property and the GCI, the gross commission income is $10,000 and you are not capped on royalty or company dollar, the check you'll get is $6,400. Okay? All right,
Okay.
now you're gonna stay with me. You and I we got a long-term thing going here now. We're gonna stick with this. So now we're gonna do a second example, okay? In this example, you've already capped on royalty, okay? So it's gonna be a little different in the market center to market center. But that company dollar piece, that 30%, every market center has a cap, which means in any given year, that's the most amount you can pay that market center in company dollar. In New England, that's probably anywheres from 20,000 to 50,000, depending on the market that you're in, is the most amount you can pay in a given year. Okay. Royalty, no matter where you are, is capped at $3,000. Okay. So in our first example, you weren't capped on anything. Okay. Our second example, we're going to do the exact same transaction, except you're now capped on royalty. You've done enough transactions that the 6% you paid has already added up to $3,000 total, and now you're not paying it. Okay, so in this example, we're going to draw 3 boxes. And I'm sorry, hold on. Okay. So we're gonna do 3 boxes now. In the first box is still your $10,000 commission. The second box is still your 30%, which is gonna be $3,000. Except now there's no royalty. Okay, So your net check is going to be 10,000 minus 3,000, which gives you what? $7,000. I apologize. The guest that I'm working with, I can't see your name the way you're displayed on the screen.
Me? You're talking about me?
I think so. Who's working with me right now in these examples?
I am working with you.
Okay,
As we're
what's your-
going with the examples.
Yes, what's your name?
Nicole.
Nicole, okay. Just the screen, the way the screen is, I can only see part of your face and your name's not showing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries. Okay, so Nicole, in this scenario, same $10,000, you're capped on
Right.
royalty. So the only thing we have to take out is our company dollar. So that
Yeah.
30% was 3,000, which means your net check is 7.
Yes, I got it.
Okay. So going back to the top, we're not capped on anything. Our net check from a $10,000 check is $6,400.
Yes.
2 months later, I close another property. The commission's 10,000 again, except now I'm capped on royalty. Now I just got a raise, 6% raise. My net is now $7,000 on that check. Okay. Now fast forward another month, I close another property. And this time I'm capped on company dollar and I'm capped on royalty. Same
Okay.
commission check is $10,000 and nothing is coming out of it. Your net check is 100% of the 10,000. You're going to get the whole thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So again, if we go back to the top, $10,000 check, we got to take out our company dollar, that's $3,000. Then we got to take out our royalty, that's 600. We end up with a net of 64. Fast forward a month, we close another one, but now we're capped on royalty, $10,000 check. The only thing coming out is the 30%, that's $3,000. We net 7. Fast forward another month, I close another one, except now I'm capped on everything. I get the whole $10,000.
Got it.
Okay. Now, each of you has an anniversary date. That is the date at which your capping cycle rotates, right? So if you started January 1 and you cap on company dollar and royalty, say in September, that means for the rest of September, October, November, December, you'll get 100% of all the commissions you earn. When January 1 hits, you'll reset and you'll be back to the first example until you cap on royalty. Then you'll go to the second example until you cap on company dollar. Then you're getting 100% until your anniversary date again. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Is there anyone left who's confused about that? Like, don't be ashamed to say you're confused if you are. Like, it's important to understand how you're making money. So if you're confused, I want to help. We're good? Okay. Can I give you a wealth building tip? Okay, Maureen's muted, but I think she said yes. She wants a wealth building tip. So we have a program called Bold. If you have the opportunity to do it, do it. And there was a Bold coach. I was sitting in a Bold room and the Bold coach gave what I thought was such smart advice. He said, you know what? We all have a unique opportunity being that we work inside of a company that gives us a cap, which means for part of the year, we're keeping, we'll say, 64 to 74% of our income. Okay, depending on what our splits are in the market center, right? 20 or 30. Right. So if we have a 20% cap plus a 6% royalty, when we're not capped on anything, we're receiving 74% of our income. If we have a 30% split in our market center plus a 6% royalty, when we're not capped on anything, we're receiving 64% of our income. The advice he gave is, once you cap, pretend you haven't and put that money in a separate bank account. Right, so if we go back to example number 1, we're paying our 30% and we're paying our 6% royalty. But then I get down here and I'm not paying that royalty anymore, which means there's an extra $600 in every check. His advice was, take that $600 and put it in a separate bank account and don't touch it. And then when you cap on company dollar, in our example, you just got a $3,000 raise. Take that $3,000, put it in a separate bank account and don't touch it. When that adds up to enough money to make a down payment on an investment property, go buy a piece of property. And here's the crazy thing. When he said it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so simple and genius. And he was like, when I tell people this, they all say the same thing. Oh, I can't afford to do that. And he's like, that's not true. Because however long it takes you to cap, you are figuring out how to survive on 74% of your income. You're doing it. So if it takes you 6 months to cap and then you get 6 months at 100%, for 6 months of the year, you are paying your bills and supporting your family and your lifestyle and your business on 74% of your income. Then all of a sudden you get a 24% raise. Well, where's the money go? Take that 24%, or I'm sorry, 26%, set it aside until it adds up to a down payment and go buy an investment property with it. Like, it is a really simple way to systematize putting money aside to be able to invest in building wealth. And this goes back to our challenge of, too often we raise our lifestyle in tandem with our income. And we don't ever have that gap of expendable income that we can then put into investments that start to give us a return and build our assets, which is what real wealth is. Real wealth is not income. Real wealth is assets that produce income. Who's going to do that? All right, I see one hand. There's other people smiling, like, I'm not doing it. We got 2. I see 2 that are going to do it. Everyone else is smiling, like, I'm not doing it. Okay. Any questions about the movement of money before we go forward? Good to go? Okay. All right. Planning for the future. All right. This is where things get tricky. There's a lot of math in this particular piece of Ignite, in this whole section. And it's important math to know and understand. So again, grab yourself a piece of paper. We'll go through this. If you get stuck, please speak up. But this is where we're going to start breaking the math down backwards off of our profit goal. Okay. So first I'm going to, let me just double check. Okay. So I'm going to walk through this example. In this example, we're going to assume, and you guys already picked your number. So excuse me, as I do this, you can do the math based on the number that you wrote on your piece of paper at the beginning of class. Okay. So we're going to set a net profit goal. You guys already did that. In this example, we're going to use $100,000. Makes the math easy. First thing we're going to do is we're going to divide the net profit by 60%. So it's 100,000 divided by 60%. Somebody give me the answer. What's 100,000 divided by 60%? Come on, this is the participation piece. All right, somebody unmute. You've got calculators on your phone. I know we can do this math. What's 100,000 divided by 60%? All right, Linda. Linda Rodriguez. If you don't volunteer, I got to pick on people. You guys are forcing me to pick on people. Linda Rodriguez,
I'm here.
what is $100,000 divided by 60%?
166,000 rounded off 667.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you very much. So we're going to leave it at 166,666. Okay. Does anybody know why we're dividing it by 60%? Linda, do you know?
No.
Okay. We're dividing it by 60% because we discussed that we have a 40% profit margin.
Exactly.
Okay. So 100,000 divided by 60% gives us the 166. Then we're going to factor in our gross commission income. So we're going to divide our gross profit, which is the 166.6 by 40%. Linda, you want to stick with me and do this? What's 166,666 divided by 40%?
416,665.
There you go. Okay. Now we're going to divide the 416,666 by our average commission income. So again, we used an example earlier of $6,000. Everybody is in a different market and is going to have a different average sales price, which is going to lead to a different average commission. Right? If you use probably, depending on where you are, if you took an average across all of New England, it would probably be a pretty reasonable to use, say, 8,000. That's probably like a median. Like if you're in Boston, it's going to be much higher. You know, if you're in a smaller area with a lower price point, it might be lower. But whatever your number is, you would then divide the 416,666 by the average commission in your market. Okay. In this example, we're going to use 7,500. Okay. So if we use 7,500, that tells us we have to sell 56 properties in order to generate $416,000 in GPI. Okay. And then in this scenario, we have a cost of sale. In this example, they're using $23,000. So it's assuming that your market center has a cap of 20,000 plus your $3,000 royalty. And then operating expenses of 30%. So you're going to multiply your GCI, which is your 416, times 30%. What's that number, Linda?
125,000, if you want to put it.
Yep, 124,999. Okay. So basically what we did is we just took the 100,000 and we worked it backwards. To figure out what we have to produce in GCI based on our average sales price. How many homes do we have to sell? Now, here's the interesting thing. We don't do it in this class, but this math keeps going. Okay.
Well, Matt, this would be if you're like independent, because some people will be in teams.
Yes. So what I would encourage you to do if you're on a team is sit down with your team lead, share with them what your personal profit goal is, and have them do this math with you. Okay. What's going to change for you is two things. You're going to have less expenses because on a typical team, they are carrying the majority of the expenses for the sales team. So you're going to have less expenses and you're going to have more cost of sale because every commission you get, you're also sharing that commission with your team in exchange for all of the things the team does and provides to you. So your expenses will go down and your cost of sale will go up. Okay. So if you sit with your team lead based on whatever your structure is in the team, they'll be able to help you do the math, adjust those two metrics. What are your expenses actually going to be, right? Typically, if you're on a team, your expenses are going to be limited to your own personal, which most often are like your MLS and your board dues, your gas, right? Things like meals and entertainment when you're bringing, a client to lunch or dinner or grabbing a coffee or whatever the case may be. That's pretty much what your true hard costs are going to be limited to. From a tax standpoint, there's additional things like home office or, other things you might be writing off, but your hard costs are probably limited to dues, gas, some basic stuff. Okay. And let me just fast forward. Okay. So the math that we don't do in this session, and I would encourage you to reach out to your productivity coach, your team leader. The next phase of this math is to actually break it down into how many listing appointments and how many buyer side appointments you have to have on a weekly basis in order to sell 56 homes to generate the profit that you want to generate. So because this particular segment of Ignite is focused on financials, they don't go that deep with it, but that is the next step. Right. And typically what happens, a lot of times, if we look at the number and we go, oh my gosh, I have to sell 56 houses. That sounds like a lot. When we do the math on how many appointments we have to have on a weekly basis in order to generate that income, most of the time when I do that math with an agent, the anxiety starts to lift because that number is smaller than we might think it is, right? You'll probably find on $100,000 income, you have to have 2 appointments a week in order to generate the sales necessary to net $100,000. Right. And by the way, if you remember back in the beginning, I had said, if you are an individual agent, there is a high likelihood that you can operate with lower expenses and lower cost of sale, which will lead to greater profits from the same amount of production, right? Once you start building a team or being on a team, right, those numbers change. But as an individual, you can operate below that and have a higher margin. Okay, do you guys have any questions about this math? Okay. How do you guys feel about a break? You want to take 5 minutes? I got a thumbs up from Linda. Linda says yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
It is 10:42 right now. Let's say we'll be back at 10:47. Does that sound good? Okay. I'm gonna take that as a yes. All right. You ready to roll?
Yes, ready to roll.
Perfect. All right, let's get our cameras on. Get ready to roll. So before we go into the rest of the content, any questions, any comments, anything that we touched on that you guys want to dig into? We're doing pretty good on time, so we've got some space if we need to. Anything that you guys want to lean into a little more before we keep going?
Someone had a question earlier, Matt, about when you had talked about the LLC piece where you don't need to go through and set all of that up just to set up your bank account to not commingle funds, but wanted your recommendation on whether you believe they should do an LLC or not.
Got it. Jennifer Kim, we're getting feedback. You mind, can you mute? Yeah, so the LLC question. There's a couple things you have to know. Depending on the state, it can be easy or complicated. So in some states, I'm in Connecticut, in my state, in order to operate a real estate sales, Monique, no offense, Jen, but Monique, can you mute Jen for me?
You have to make me a co-host.
Oh. All right, there we go. And I will make you a co-host so that you can do it the next time. Make co-host. There you go. All right, you're good to go. Okay, so LLC question. Check with your broker in your state to see what the regulations are. In the state of Connecticut, in order to operate your sales business under an LLC and have the brokerage pay the LLC rather than pay you directly, you have to have a broker's license. That is not the case in every state. So number one, check with your broker and find out, do I need a broker's license to operate under an LLC? If you do not, I would probably say yes. The biggest advantage, so number one, an LLC is a pass-through entity. It doesn't change your income. It doesn't change your tax situation, and there's a caveat to that I'll get to. The purpose of an LLC is just to limit liability. That's why it's called a limited liability company. So its intent is if there was ever any type of a lawsuit, it encapsulates the damage that can come from that lawsuit inside of that entity, meaning they can't come after your personal property, they can't come after another business, they can't come after your investments. If you have an investment portfolio, they can only go after the assets that are inside of that entity. That is the purpose of an LLC. It's really for liability protection. Where it does have an advantage at a certain level of income, which you would want to talk to your CPA about, is you remember that we were talking about self-employment taxes. So there's this weird thing in the IRS code that you can have an LLC, elect to file as an S corp, pay yourself a reasonable salary. Taxes will be taken out of that reasonable salary. So you literally set yourself up with a payroll company and you say, I'm going to pay myself 50 grand a year. And you receive an actual paycheck with taxes taken out of it. And then you elect to file as an S corp. When you do that, it saves you on self-employment taxes up to a certain amount of income. Okay, so it's confusing to just talk about if it's the first time you're hearing it. And it can save you a good amount of money on an annual basis in taxes. So first, I would check with your broker. Do I need a broker's license to operate under an LLC? If it's easy enough to set up, then I would say talk to a CPA. Do I have a tax advantage of operating this way as a CPA or as an LLC, electing to file as an S corp? And if the answer is yes, then it makes sense for financial reasons. Did that, I don't know who asked the question. Did that answer the question for you?
It was Ashley who asked that question.
That answer the question, Ashley?
Don't know if she's still on the call.
Got it. I know somebody had to jump, so maybe that was Ashley. Okay, any other questions? All right, let's get going then. Okay. All right, so. Screen.
I
Okay.
have that link whenever you're ready, Matt.
Okay, perfect. I'll let you know. All right, so we ran through this math. So let's dive into some best practices. Let me skip these slides first. Okay. All right, so number one, gain clarity on your big life hopes and dreams. So again, at a minimum, what is it that I want to accomplish in the next 12 months from an income standpoint? And then gaining the clarity on how is that going to impact my life in a positive way? We want to connect to the emotional aspect of it. That is going to be the fuel that is going to drive us to do the work when we don't necessarily feel like doing the work, right? So getting clarity around what is the goal and what is important to me about that goal. Like, I can't stress that enough. I'll share a little bit of a story because we do have time. So when I first got into the business, I was working. So I've worked since I was 14 years old, moved out, lived on my own at 17 years old, still in high school. I was living on my own. So I've always worked. I ran an automotive shop for most of the time that I was in high school. So I had essentially a full-time job while I was still in high school running an automotive repair shop. Fast forward, I graduated. I went to community college. I joined the military. I went overseas. I got accepted to UConn while I was overseas with the military. I came back. I was looking for a job to pay my bills while I finished up the last 2 years of college at UConn. And I met a guy named Mike Belize. He owns one of the largest car dealership conglomerates in Western Massachusetts. Guy's got a private jet, by the way. So I met this guy. Now, keep in mind, I'm an extremely blue collar guy, one of 5 children, single mom who was a nurse. We did not have a lot in the way of capital as children, right? My mom took care of us. She was an amazing woman, but money was not a thing we had a lot of, right? So I meet Mike Belize because I'm applying for a job, and he says to me in my early 20s, if I had a 6-figure position for you today, I would hire you. And I said, awesome, right? And by the way, at that point in my life, to have somebody say they would hire me for a 6-figure position, he might as well have said $1 million a year. Like, to me, that was massive money, like mind-blowing massive money to me at that point with the financial thermostat that I had at that age with my background. So he said this, and I said, okay, why don't I leave and you call me back when you have the 6-figure position? And he laughed and he said, well, here's what I want to do. I want to give you the job, and within 2 years, I see you running a dealership. Here's the kind of money you'll be making, right? And I was blown away. I went home to my wife and I said, you're not going to believe this. I just met this guy. This is what he said. This is what he's going to pay me. And he says, in 2 years, I'll be doing this and earning this kind of money. It's more money than we need. At that point in time, my wife and I were living in a 2-room apartment. I drove a vehicle that I bought for cash, right? I had essentially no expenses. I had rent and groceries, right? So I was like, this is way more money than we're going to need to live. All I've ever wanted to do is invest in real estate. I'll be able to take all that extra money and invest in real estate. So I decided not to go back to college, and I took the job because I wasn't going to be able to balance the two. Fast forward, I'm there for a little over a year. And what I discovered was I didn't like it. I didn't like the business. Right. There is a little bit of truth. And I'm not being negative or derogatory, but there is a little bit of truth to the reputation of that industry. And I just didn't like it. Right. I was looking at the individuals who were doing what I was supposedly going to do someday. It wasn't attractive to me. I was like, I don't think I can be them. I need to figure something out. So I went home to my wife and I said, listen, I don't think I can do this for the rest of my life. I know I dropped out of college to do this. It seemed like a good idea, but this can't be how I make my living. I don't like it. I got to figure out a path, and I don't want to zigzag through life. So I'm going to come home, I'm going to have dinner, I'm going to go down into my office, and I'm just going to spend some time thinking and figure out what is important to me and what do I really want to do, at least for the foreseeable future, as far down the road as I can see, because I don't want to make another change and end up zigzagging through life. So I spent a lot of time thinking about what was important to me, right? What I was looking for that I just didn't have the vocabulary for at the time, because I hadn't been spoken to or educated in that way. I was looking for my big why. I just didn't know that's what I was doing, right? I was trying to get clear on my drive, my motivation. What do I want out of life? What makes me happy? All of those things. And for me at that time, and it's still a significant driver for me. Now I have a family, right? So things are a little different, yet it's still a big driver for me. What I came out with is freedom. Freedom is a massive driver for me, right? Like I often say, number one, this is weird. I often say I'm unemployable. Ask me to do my favorite thing on the planet and ask me to do it 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and have to ask somebody for vacation time. I will eventually hate that thing. Why? Because I have no freedom inside of it, right? So freedom was a huge driver for me. And honestly, it probably came from my upbringing. When you don't have money, you don't have freedom. You do what you can do, not what you want to do. You're limited in your choices, right? So that is likely where that seed of being driven by freedom came from, is growing up in such a way that, we had a roof over our head. We had food in the fridge. Beyond that, there weren't a lot of choices, right? We did what we could do. So in that process, I discovered that was my driver. And what I ended up doing is I went and quit the job. Now, at that point, I was earning more money than anybody I knew my age. People I grew up with, people I went to school with, nobody was earning the money that I was earning at that time that I knew. I'm sure somebody was, but not the people I knew. So it was a really good job from an income standpoint. So I went and I quit, and I took a job in a warehouse, a refrigerated warehouse, working the night shift, loading boxes for 2 to 6 cents a box. The more boxes you load, the more you get paid. And I did that at night. And then I would go into the locker rooms. And honestly, I would put Visine in my eyes. I would pound a Red Bull. By the way, not a healthy system. And it's what I did. And then I would put on a suit and tie, and I would go sell real estate. And oftentimes, real estate would bleed right into me having to go back to the warehouse. And I would drive straight to the warehouse without going to bed, go into the locker room, change into the scrubs, punch in, and go load boxes, right? It was normal for me to go 36, even 48 hours with zero sleep. When I did sleep, it was a couple hours a day. Here's the reason I'm telling the story. When I was doing it, it actually didn't even seem hard. Right? Like people would ask me, like, how do you go so long without sleeping? And I'd be like, I don't know. I just do. But here's the reason I could do it, and it didn't seem hard. Like, was I tired sometimes? Of course I was. But it didn't feel as hard as it probably sounds when I tell the story. And the reason was I knew why I was doing what I was doing. What I knew is if I could do that for a short period of time, it would buy me the right to be able to do things that currently I can't do for the rest of my life. And that's what the motivation was. So where did the energy come from to go without sleep, to do manual labor all night long in a refrigerator? drop Visine and pound Red Bull and go. And again, I'm not encouraging pounding Red Bulls. That's a really bad health decision, which by the way, did lead me to go to the doctor. Like, I had major digestion issues. And he was like, tell me about your diet. I'm like, it's Hot Pockets, Pop-Tarts, and Red Bull. And he was like, okay, you're an idiot. Go eat a vegetable and come back if you still have problems. So I'm not encouraging that. But the only reason I'm sharing the story is the time I took to get clear on what really mattered to me is what gave me the drive to do those things during that time in my life. And in the moment, not actually feel like it was that hard. Like, because I wasn't thinking about the hard, right? Every obstacle that got in my way, it was like a gnat. It was just annoying. I just slapped it out of the way and kept going, right? I didn't focus on the problems, the challenges. I focused on the outcome. What I knew is if I do this for a certain period of time, sold a certain number of houses, put every dime of that money in a bank account, within X period of time, I would have a big enough cushion to cut the cord at the warehouse, go full-time, sell real estate, and be fully in control of my destiny. Period, end of story. Anything that got in the way of that, I was moving it, period. Right? Because the drive was that big. So when we talk about this, it really is important. If my goal was just, I want to make money, I don't know that I would have had the drive to do those things at that point in my life. It was the thing that I knew the money was going to get me and what that would mean for the rest of my life that gave me the motivation. Does that make sense? Right? So I encourage you, just take the time. Like, don't get lost in it, but take the time to really think about, what does it mean to me if I hit my goal? When I hit my goal, how does my life change? And also know your big why will change, right? Depending on where we are in life, like most of us are going to have certain drivers that are always a part of our drive. Freedom is still a part of my drive. It's just now I have children, right? So I also have other things that drive me now, but freedom is still a core part of what pushes me and drives me to do things. It's what gets me up. It's what makes me put in the work. It's what makes me learn and continue to educate myself, all of those things. So just take the time to understand what that is for you, because again, that's the fuel that's going to fill the tank to go do the hard work. Okay. There's a saying that entrepreneurs do for 7 years what nobody else is willing to do, so that they can do for the rest of their life what nobody else can do. And I think that's a really powerful statement. When we get clear on what we're looking for, we're willing to do things that other people aren't willing to do. And eventually we can do things that other people can't do. And that includes contribute to the world, our community, the people we care about, all those things. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox. All right, set up your personal business budget. Okay, so why are we doing what we're doing? How much money do we need to generate? Set up our personal and our business budgets accordingly. Okay. I'm going to show you a tool afterwards that can make that easy and give you guys an opportunity to try it free should you want to try it. Okay. Set up your business entity. Again, you don't have to do that immediately. Just put it somewhere on your to-do list or in the back of your mind to have a conversation with your broker and a CPA. Does it make sense to set up an actual entity for your business? It is more important that your time, energy, and effort right now goes into generating opportunities to do business than it is setting up an entity, right? But at some point, have the conversation, decide if it makes sense for you, okay? Open an additional bank account for your taxes and your business expenses. That you should do now, right? Like when I tell people they need a P&L for their business, a lot of times people will go, oh, I'm new. When I start doing business, I'll worry about that. That is not how business works. If you ever went to a bank to get a business loan and told a lender that, I'm not going to worry about keeping track of my income or expenses until I make X amount of money. Like, you're not getting that business loan. That is not how businesses operate, right? You have to start. And by the way, whatever habits you create now, they're going to grow as your business grows. So if you get into the habit of not paying attention to the finances of your business, the bigger it grows, the bigger the problem is going to be. You're not actually going to recreate, like, it's going to become harder to implement those habits. If you do it now, it's just going to be second nature. Okay, so do those things now. So set up the bank account. Again, don't get wrapped around the axle of whether it's actually a business account. Just have an account that you tag as business and start practicing separating that money. Okay. Download and use the MREA chart of accounts. Again, I've got a tool I'm going to share with you. You guys will have the opportunity to try it for free. It's going to make that really, really easy for you. It's going to make budgeting easy. It's going to make your chart of accounts easy. It's going to make all that stuff easy. Hire an accountant and a CPA. Okay, this is part of building your team. When you own a business, you need a CPA, right? At a bare minimum to file taxes. As you fast forward into the future, you will need them for other things, right? That whole conversation I had about the LLC filing as an S corp, there was a point in time where I was not aware of that. I learned it when I called my CPA and said, I'd like to meet with you. And he said, great, what do you want to talk about? I said, I want to talk about paying less taxes. And he said, okay, do you have some ideas? I said, no, that's what I need you for. All I know is I don't like the amount of taxes I'm paying. And I want to know what I should be doing that I am not currently doing to reduce the amount of my income that is going to taxes. And then I sat down with them and we looked at all my businesses. And all of a sudden he said, well, these businesses we could elect to file as S corps, which would save you half of your self-employment tax. And I said, okay, what would I have to do that? He goes, it's a piece of paper. You sign it and I send it to the IRS. I'm like, wait a minute. I sign a piece of paper and I save thousands of dollars every single year in each one of these businesses. Why have I not been doing this? Right? We need our CPA to educate ourselves. The other thing too is as you go further right now, focus on growing your business. As your business grows, there are going to be different things that you're going to have to lean into and learn. Right now, you want to be focused on momentum. What are the things I have to learn to create momentum and grow my business? As you start to gain that momentum, you're going to want to start educating yourself on things like taxes. Right? You don't have to become an expert, but you should have a general understanding of how taxes work for the industry that you're in, because nobody pays more attention to your money than you do. So you need a team of professionals and you need to leverage them to learn, right? Because we actually go through phases. Most of us start out in some form of survival, right? We're just trying to get by. We're trying to scratch out a living. We're trying to gain some momentum, right? And then we get to a point where we're sustainable. The work we've done has got us to a sustainable place. Right. And if we keep doing the right things, eventually we get to a thrive stage of our life and our career. Right. And if you use different words in that cycle, it's first, we're just trying to earn. Right. And once we start earning, then we're trying to figure out how to keep the money. Like, what do I have to do and know and understand to keep the money? And then it's, where do I invest the money? Right? It's 3 stages that go right along with the survival, the stability, and the thriving stages. Right? One is how do I earn it? Second is how do I keep it? Third is how do I invest it? And they go along with those 3 stages of growth. Okay. Any comments or questions so far? Okay. Purchase and download tax accounting software. Again, I'm going to show you a tool that checks a lot of these boxes for you. It's simple. It's in alignment with our industry. It's in alignment with the millionaire real estate agent model. And it's significantly less expensive and easier to use than any other tool that's out there. And no matter what tool you use, you still need a CPA. Okay. Set dates to calculate and pay your estimated taxes. Again, I would strongly encourage at a minimum quarterly. I would argue you're super smart if you set up an account with the IRS. When your check comes in, you just pay them. Money's out of your hands. You don't have to worry about it, right? Then you can be like other people and be happy at tax time because you're getting a return, right? All my friends are always super happy at tax time, talking about their returns while I'm writing some giant check, right? Tax time is a very different experience for self-employed people. But if you pay it ahead of time, the money's out of your hands. You don't have to worry about it. And you either have a small check to write at the end of the year, or you're even getting a return. Life is easier, less stressful. And prepare for your future. This is really important. It goes back to the, surviving, stability, and then thriving. Insurance is really important. And by the way, We now have insurance available for Keller Williams, which is a huge feat. Up until now, there has been no ability to provide insurance to independent contractors. We have just recently put together KW Perks to be able to offer a full suite of insurance to all of our associates, which is a massive, massive, massive win. Here's the thing. We are lucky in that you pretty much have to wire our jaws shut in order to take away our ability to earn income. However, things can happen to us, right? When you get to that stability phase, that thrive and then stability and then thrive, we have to protect all the work we've done and all the momentum that we gained. And I personally hate insurance. I'll be the first to say it. It drives me insane. Insurance drives me insane. And we have to have it. It's our safety net, right? So the things you have to have, and you should jot these down. You have to have life insurance, especially if you have a family. If I sound like a jerk right now, I will apologize, and I only kind of mean it, the apology I mean. If you have a family and you don't have life insurance, you are being irresponsible. God forbid something were to happen to you, the position you're leaving your family in, that is an irresponsible decision for an adult to make. Life insurance does not have to be expensive, right? There's two different versions. One is expensive and it has an investment spin to it. One is inexpensive and it's just there to protect you for that god-awful situation should it happen. Don't leave your family in a lurch.
Can I chime in there, Matt, too? People think about life insurance as I do it when I have a family, but also when you have a family, you need to really get it for your kids because your kids could get a childhood illness that will exclude them from getting life insurance for their entire life. Like my daughter has von Willebrand's disease. She cannot get life insurance. So if we would have gotten that before she was diagnosed, when she was younger, firstborn, she would have been fine with that policy for the rest of her life, but now she can't get it. So think about really getting life insurance on your kids when they're firstborn.
100%. Yep. There's another advantage to that too. When you get insurance for your kids, and obviously talk to a professional, but what I know and what I have set up for my own family, if you get insurance for your kids early, number one, it's much less expensive, right? Because they're really young. So the insurance company is like, okay, this is for lack of a better way of saying it, it's a safe bet. So the cost is lower, right? Because they balance the cost out based on the risk of the individual that they're insuring. What that also does for a lot of policies, it will lock in their cost, which means fast forward when they're an adult, if they want to add to that life insurance and increase the payout, you can lock in the risk rate. So it's much less expensive for them as an adult to add to the existing policy than it would be for them to just go out and get one. So there's multiple advantages to doing that for your kids at a very early age. And by the way, there's things that you can't prepare for that can, if your child has ever been diagnosed with depression, anxiety, those things completely make it, you can't get insurance, right? And those are things that we might not think we're ever going to deal with our children. And all of a sudden they show up and we realize now I can't protect that child the way I would like to because this showed up at age 13 and I wasn't prepared for it, right? So it's really important. And it's important to protect ourselves. So it's life insurance, it's disability insurance, also very inexpensive. God forbid something does happen that does actually take away our ability to earn income and take care of our family. Disability insurance kicks in to take care of that. And then health insurance. Health insurance, let's be real, is expensive. Super expensive. That is the truth. And we need it, right? So as soon as we can scratch out the money to have it, we need to have it. Worst case scenario, a catastrophic policy, right? So maybe you do have to cover regular stuff, but if something big happens, you're covered. Right, I'll share another short story going back to the warehouse. We worked in teams at the warehouse. So there were teams of 6 of us that would work. We'd each pick from different areas in the warehouse and then we'd all load the trucks and then get a new truck and we functioned as a team. I had a team member that I worked with who went down in the warehouse. We found him passed out on the ground, unconscious. We happened at that time to be working at a warehouse in Vermont in the middle of nowhere. We were going there to do extra shifts to earn extra money. We found him passed out, unconscious. They had to bring in a helicopter and life flight him out. He was in the hospital for over a month. I don't know what caused it, but he had a brain swell. And that's what caused the situation. He left and we never heard from him again. Never heard from him again. Fast forward, I don't even know how long it was, a year and a half, 2 years later, I'm walking into the gym one day and I see him coming out. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, how are you? I'm like, dude, you disappeared. Like, we all tried to call you. We never heard from you. Like, we've all been wondering what happened. And he ended up sharing with me, the poor guy had to claim bankruptcy. He got you know what a life flight on a helicopter costs? You know what a 30-day stay in the in intensive care costs? Crazy thing is, the warehouse that we were working at, they offered insurance. He was new. This incident happened a week before his insurance kicked in, because you had to be there for X period of time in order for the insurance to kick in. Right? Completely unforeseeable thing that happened to him, and it destroyed him financially. Right? And again, I'm not trying to be doomsday, but these are things we have to think about. We're going to work really hard to build our financial world and build our business. We have to protect it. Okay. So prepare for the future. Look into those insurances. Again, it's life, it's disability, it's health. We talked about savings and the simple strategies to be able to do that. As part of savings, if we're actually executing on all the things that we discussed, we're setting a business budget, we're setting a personal budget, we're sticking to it. The extra money we're making, we're setting aside. We want to get to a point where we have, I would say, benchmark number one is to get to 3 months of reserves. I have enough money in the bank account to cover my business and personal expenses for 3 months. Once we get there, we can push that to 6 months. Somewhere in that window, when we have that 3 to 6 months, is where we have probably earned the right to start setting money aside to be able to do investments. Right? We've got a good foundation. We've got a good safety net. Now we can start thinking about bigger picture wealth building opportunities. And by the way, I'm going to add this just to hopefully bring some sexy and some sizzle to this conversation. There are amazing things you can do. As you start to build your business and you keep your lifestyle in check and you generate expendable income and you do the smart things, you create your reserves, now you have the opportunity to responsibly invest. And I would argue, what do we do for a living? We're experts in real estate. Why not invest in what we're experts in, especially considering it is the largest wealth building mechanism in the world historically? Why would we not put our money into it? There are amazing things we can do for our families or people we care about, family or not, in the way of setting up trusts and all these things that can allow that wealth to transfer in ways that can create a ripple effect of impact on families for generations and generations and generations. Like, it's a massive, massive ability to change the lives of the people we care about if we're willing to put in the work, learn, and implement the things necessary in order to create that ripple effect. Another great story, I went on vacation with a family. So my sister-in-law reached out and said, I'm going on vacation with a friend. We'd love for you guys to join us. It was Jersey Shore somewhere. So we said, sure, we'll come along. What we didn't know, we met them at the beach and they were with their friends and they had other family with them. So we were like, oh, wow, there's a lot of you. And then we were talking, and the longer we hung out, the more like the people on this beach towel over here came over and started talking, this one and this. Next thing you know, I started to feel like they knew everybody on the beach. And I was like, who exactly is with you guys? And they were like, everybody. What do you mean everybody? They're like, this is our family. I mean, there's tons of them. I don't even know how many, tons of them. They're a huge Italian family. And I was like, oh my gosh. So this is what it was. Their grandfather set up his trust in such a way that there was a certain amount of money allocated on an annual basis for the entire family and their extended family once a year to be able to take a vacation together. So every year, the brothers, the sisters, the cousins, the in-laws, the kids, the grandkids, all took a massive vacation, regardless of their financial abilities or what's going on in their world. Once a year, this entire family got together to connect and bond, and it cost them nothing to do it. And it was their grandfather who set up the ability for them to do that. Think about the ripple effect of that. Think about the connection in that family that exists that wouldn't exist if that man hadn't set that up. Like that is the power that we have if we're willing to do the work and be thoughtful about what it is we want to accomplish and how we want our accomplishments to impact the world and the people we care about. Okay, any questions? Okay, I want 3 nuggets that you took away from today. Then I'm going to introduce a tool. Then I'll answer any questions if you have them, and then we're going to wrap up. So somebody unmute, 1 per person. I want to hear 3 nuggets, something you took away that you are going to take action on.
Getting a CPA and taking advantage of all the different tax savings for the future.
Love it.
And to start now versus down the road when things build up.
Yes, yes, yes. Love it. What else?
Matt, I like the 30, 30, 40. That was an eye opener.
Yep. Love it. So tax strategies, 30, 30, 40. Give me one more.
Linda said goal setting in the
Bank
chat.
accounts.
What did Linda say?
Goal setting in the chat.
Yep, love that. Remember, purpose of a goal is to what? Come on. Make me proud. Purpose of a goal is? Come on, don't make me give you the answer. Purpose of the goal is to inform the plan. All right, and then I heard somebody else speak up.
It was me.
Niku.
Yeah, just opening up other bank accounts for the business because I currently don't have that. So that's something I definitely need to do.
Awesome, love it. Okay, all right, so I'm going to show you a tool real quick, and then we got a little bit of time. I'm going to open it up to any questions you guys want to ask about financials, money, the business in general, anything you want to ask me. So let me just take a moment. So a lot of what we talked about budgets. Oh, let me give you another tool. You can write this one down. There is another one, and I can't remember the name off the top of my head. The one I have always recommended is mint.com. Mint, like the herb, mint.com. Mint.com is a free tool that you can connect with your personal bank accounts. I stress the word personal, it's not for business, personal bank accounts. It'll pull all your transactions into a system, and it shows you where you spend all your money in like pie charts. You can create budgets. It basically gives you a personal P&L. It's a great tool to start getting a handle on your personal finances and where you're actually spending money, so that you can look at that and go, are these things actually important to me, or am I just wasting money? Right? It's really eye-opening the first time you do it. And it's a really simple, easy, powerful, free tool to use. Okay. The tool I'm going to show you for your business is mint.com for real estate agents. That's all it is. Okay. Okay, you have my screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so this is RE Profit. Wait a minute, something's going on here. Stop sharing. There. Are you seeing the RE Profit slide, or are you still on best practices?
The RA profit slide.
Yeah.
This is so weird. It's showing me a different slide. Okay, as long as you guys can see it. Are you seeing my slides move right now?
No.
This is so weird. Okay. All right, we're just gonna do it from here and I'm gonna scroll because I have no idea how you guys are seeing something different than what's on my screen. So this is what RE Profit is. RE Profit is mint.com for real estate agents matched up with all the models that we just taught you. So basically it connects with your bank accounts and credit cards, just like mint.com is. It's through a secure API. Mint.com or RE Profit, they don't know your passwords. They can't access your accounts. There's an independent company that works in the middle that just pulls numbers and decimals into the platform. And basically what it does is creates a profit and loss statement for you. Okay, so it pulls all your transactions in. Then you can select your level of production, and in 2 clicks, it gives you a budget. By the way, those budgets are based off the Millionaire Real Estate Agent budgets that say at these levels of production, this is what you should be spending on all these different things. That's exactly the numbers that are used inside of this system. So you select your level of production and it creates a P&L for you that shows you what you are doing next to what you should be doing in order to maximize profitability, right? If there's a gap, the goal is to work towards closing that gap in order to maximize profitability. It red light, green lights. So if you are over spending on a particular item, it's going to turn red to draw your attention to it. Okay. If your income is below what it needs to be in order to hit the production goal, it's going to turn red to let you know that you're behind on the income goal. So from a simple way of looking at it, green means you're good and you're on track. You're either on track or exceeding the goal. Red means you're overspending or under earning. You might need to slow down and take a look at this. Okay. It also tracks your estimated tax liability. So down here, it's going to tell you what your profit is. You're going to put in what your estimated tax bracket is. I pay 20% of my total income, 25, 35, 40, whatever that number is. And it's going to track your estimated tax liability. It's going to track any money you took out of the business for personal use. And if at any point in time, the amount of money that you have personally spent plus what you owe the government is more than your true net profit, this available capital is going to show up in brackets. That's telling you you're negative, right? This is the number one challenge that agents get into is I have money in my bank account. I have a profit and loss that says I'm profitable, but I'm actually in the hole. Well, how's that possible? Well, it's really simple. I owe the government 50 grand and I only have 25 grand in the bank. Part of the money I have spent was tax money that I shouldn't have spent, right? So this is going to keep that in front of you. Gives you the full P&L. This is your chart of accounts with all your business expenses. Same thing. It displays what you are doing next to what you should be doing. If you have a gap, the goal is to work on closing that gap to maximize your profitability. By the way, all this is automated. So it's super simple, easy to use. You go get a coffee at Starbucks. It's going to pull it into the system. You open it up, it's there. Okay.
Wow.
It's not a lot of data input or any nonsense like that. The other things that I'm just hitting the high level pieces of this. The other thing that's really important is we have an ROI tracker in it. The ROI tracker is we're tracking your return on investment for any lead generation expenses. So what it does is for every income that comes into your business, it tracks where did the income come from? And did you spend money to generate that income? And if so, what's my return on investment? Right. So if you're investing in, I'm just going to use an example, internet leads. Okay, how much money have I spent? How much money have I made? What's my ROI? The reason this is really important is as you go forward, you start to see where you get the greatest returns. And you know, those areas are where I want to put either the most time or money because I'm getting the greatest return out of them. Right? Without that data, you might be investing time or money into the wrong thing because something else is yielding a better return, but you just don't know that. Right? So this tracks that for you. The other piece is there's a mobile app that goes along with it. Everything you can do inside the desktop or the web-based version, you can do on the mobile app. There's also a mileage tracker inside the mobile app. So you can keep track of your business mileage. By the way, business mileage is the number one thing. If a real estate agent gets audited, the number one area where there's money owed is typically mileage. right? Every year there's a dollar, there's an amount per mile that you can write off, right? It's usually somewhere around 50 cents per mile. Typical real estate agent, this is what we do. We look at our speedometer, or I'm sorry, our odometer, right? And we go, I got 98,000 miles. Last year, I think I had 46,000. I'm going to say 10,000 of those were personal. The rest is business. I'm going to write off 30,000 miles. And then we multiply that by 50 cents a mile and we take that right off. But when the IRS shows up, what they're going to say is, show me the records. And when you don't have the records, guess what they say? You owe us that money because you can't prove that you drove those business miles. So the tracker allows you to just, when you start a trip, you can track it, you can tag it. I was showing a house to Nicole in blah, blah, blah town, whatever. Now you can print that, send it to your accountant, export it, send it to your accountant along with your P&L at tax time. Everything's organized, everything's clean. If you ever get it audited, it's all there for you. So I'm going to have Monique drop a, yep.
Real quick, anything that we already have saved, recorded, like written down, can we add in?
Yes. Yep, we can import it for you. Okay. Monique is going to drop a link into the chat box. Anybody who wants to try it, there's two, I'll tell you what the pricing is, and then I'll tell you the two ways you can try it. So pricing is $39 a month or $350 for the whole year. If you sign up for the year, it's a 26% discount. Okay. We also have what we call Profit Assist. Profit Assist is for the person who knows I need this and I'm never going to do it. I'm going to forget about it. I'm never going to go in. I'm not, even if it takes me 5 minutes a month, I'm just not going to do it. Profit Assist, we assign you an actual person. That person does the manual labor inside the system. You have a call with them every other week where they go through it with you, answer any questions, and they keep it clean. It's the equivalent of having a bookkeeper and the software platform. That is $850 for the whole year. Okay. The trial, if you guys want to try it, I'll give you the option. You can do either one. You can try the software free by itself for 60 days. If you like it and you want to keep doing it yourself, then it's $39 a month after that, or you can pay $350 for the whole year. If you want the Profit Assist, you can sign up for Profit Assist for the whole year for the first year for $350. Same cost as the platform itself by itself, but you're going to get Profit Assist with it. After the first year, it's going to be normal pricing. Okay. Full disclosure, I own this company. I built this software. What I want you to know is the only reason I built this software is I mentioned early, my hot button, the thing I'm most passionate about teaching is personal financial management, business financial management, and wealth building. I've been teaching classes around that my entire real estate career. And one of the challenges is I always try to teach tactic tool, tactic tool, tactic tool. Problem I had in the past is when I got to profit and loss statement for your business, I didn't have a tool that was simple. It was go get QuickBooks or have an Excel spreadsheet or blah, blah, blah. All complicated things that I knew people weren't going to implement. So after years of teaching and being able to go tactic tool, tactic tool, tactic tool, getting to P&L and giving them solutions that I knew they wouldn't actually use, myself and a partner decided to go build it, right? So that's the reason we built it. And those are your options. So you can do, if you want to try it, use that link. They'll allow you to schedule an onboarding. You'll have a meeting via the internet, screen share. They'll get you all set up. They'll walk you through the software. If all you want to do is try to do it on your own, you can have it free for 60 days, decide if you like it. If you want the Profit Assist, $350 for the first year. After that, it's regular pricing. Okay. Questions about anything you would like to talk about? Ashley says the link is not working. Let me try. Try it on my end, and if it's still not working, we'll get you a new one before we cut out. Let me try it quick though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says
I'll
page not found.
look into it.
Okay. All right, so Monique will work on getting us a new link. Questions? It can be about anything. content from today or anything else you want to pick my brain on? We're good?
Yeah. Matt, I have a question about teams, because you referenced teams earlier.
Yep.
You talked about building your own team. And so I guess my question is, is there a general split around teams, or is there an expectation around teams about how the financials are
Typically,
worked out?
yeah. So every team is going to be a little different. What is most common? Most common is if you're on a team, you are probably splitting your transactions somewhere between 50-50 with your team or 60-40. Somewhere in that range, meaning you're keeping 50, they're keeping 50, or you're keeping 60 and they're keeping 40.
Mhm.
And then after that, both you and the team member are paying the broker in the company dollar in the royalty.
That seems unsustainable, sort of. I mean, that seems, given all the tools that Keller Williams provides to all its agents, it just seems like a gigantic portion of the commission paid out.
Yeah, so here's how I always, anytime I'm talking to somebody who's new to the industry around teams, this is usually the conversation I have. If you think about it like this, imagine you're going on vacation. There's two ways you can do it. You can plan the entire vacation, decide where you want to go, what airline you're going to fly, what class you're going to sit, what kind of rental car you're going to get, the hotel you're going to stay at, the places you're going to eat, the activities you're going to do, and have an amazing vacation. You can also buy a ticket on a cruise ship, pack your bag, get on the cruise ship. They're going to feed you, entertain you, drop you off the coolest places, tell you what to do while you're there, when to be back so they can bring you to the next cool place. Both can be amazing vacations. The cruise ship is the team. What a team does for you is, instead of you having to build out all of your systems, your own marketing, all of the stuff kind of behind the curtain, it's all there. And it allows you to just do the client facing work and let somebody else worry about the rest. In exchange, you're giving up a chunk of the income, right?
Right.
And you got to ask yourself who you are and what you want, right? Like, if you build it yourself, it is absolutely more work. And Lisa, I agree with you. Keller gives us all the tools and resources and everything necessary to do it. We're going to do the work and we're going to own it. It's ours. If we're on a team, we're saying, you know what? I don't want to build it all. I just want to do the client facing piece. And I'm going to let somebody else build it. And I'm okay that I don't own the business. I work in the business. It just depends on who you are. Some people aren't wired to build it all themselves, and that doesn't make them wrong. It's just not what they enjoy. It's not their skill set. They just want to work with clients. If that's the case, a team can be a great solution, and a team should be able to provide the opportunity to do enough business that it balances out the split with the team. So there's no right or wrong answer. It's who are you? What do I want to build? What do I enjoy doing? And what do I want the outcome to be at the end of this? Either one is a good answer. The answer is just different for different people.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Matt, the new link is in the chat.
Okay. And you tested it? Okay. New link will work. Okay. Thank you, Lisa, for the question.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Ashley?
Yeah, I put my question in the chat just because I'm at work, and I just wanted to know, you mentioned something about creating an LLC for your business and saying that's kind of like a waste of time. I guess just want to hear your input on that, and like versus just, writing your things off as a sole proprietor versus creating LLC for your business.
Sure. Yeah. So not a waste of time. What I would say is, number one, Number one, depending on the state you're in, you may have to have a broker's license to operate as an LLC. So step one, I would ask your broker, do I need to have a broker's license in order to be paid as an LLC in this state? Number two, I would talk to a CPA and say, at my current level of income, is there a tax advantage to operating as an LLC? If it's easy to set up in your state and your CPA says, yes, there is a tax advantage, then it might make sense to set it up because it's not that hard to do. The flip side of that is I do believe early in your business, it is far more important to focus on the activities that are going to create momentum in your business than it is setting up an LLC, right? So if you've got to choose, I only have so much time and so much bandwidth to focus on different things right now. Like you mentioned, you're at work. LLC would not be my priority. My priority would be, what are the things I can spend time on that are going to create clients for me to work with so that I can make money? And then I can revisit setting up an LLC and taking advantage of any tax. So it's not a waste of time, but you need to find out, can you do it in your state? Is there a tax advantage? And then if so, just, is it a priority right now or just something I need to table and do later so that I can focus on getting the momentum first? Is that helpful? Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, sorry about that. Yes, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Kevin?
Can we get your contact information in the chat in case we have any questions on this software?
That you want to like send those to Tasha?
So I'll give you my contact info. So that is my direct cell phone number. You're going to connect with onboarding, and there is customer support there that you can contact not only through the application, but you'll have a direct line to reach them also. So I would say that's your first go-to just because you'll get answers faster. But anybody who does, you're more than welcome to save my phone number and reach out to me if there's anything I can do to help.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else before we wrap? Okay. All right. So hopefully you guys have some to-dos that you've listed out from today. I gave you my number one piece of advice that I give everybody, which is if you have space in your calendar that isn't filled with appointments that are buyers or sellers, spend that time lead generating right now. The world you will create for yourself will be amazing. Second piece of advice I would give you, we have lots of training, which is awesome. Education without action is entertainment. Don't get caught up in the entertainment loop. Make sure when you leave training, you're executing, you're taking action. And the best way to ensure that you're going to do that is find out who the coach is in your market center and get into a coaching relationship so they can help you set the goal, create the plan, and hold you accountable to doing it. Remember, you can wake up every day and choose not to work, and nobody's going to fire you, but your life isn't going to change either. You can also wake up and decide to go to work and create any life that you want to create in this business. The choice is yours. So if there's no other questions, that's all I have. So you guys are free, I don't know, 15 minutes early. That's 15 minutes. What do you think I would tell you to do with that 15 minutes? Go call 5 people. Make sure they know you're in the real estate business. All right, everybody, that's all I got. I hope this was helpful. I hope you guys got value out of it. You have my cell phone. If there's anything I can do to help, feel free to reach out to me. And I look forward to seeing you guys in other training.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
Thank you.